Today, we're going to explore something that is just so painful and, honestly, so often misunderstood. We're talking about what happens when a child completely rejects a parent. And look, this isn't just for people going through it. This is really a guide for all of us, for the friends, the family, the teachers, anyone on the outside who sees this happening and just wants to understand what's really going on. Have you ever seen this? It's a real gut punch. You see a kid who was once so loving and affectionate just turn on a dime. They become hostile, cold, and it's all directed at one parent for reasons that just don't seem to make any sense. And that kind of sudden shift, well, it leaves everyone feeling completely lost and just searching for answers. It's so easy to just write this off as, oh, it's just a phase or it's typical teenage rebellion. But when the rejection is this total, this unwavering, it's a huge red flag that something much, much deeper is going on. This is not just random kid behavior. It's a symptom of a really serious problem. Okay, so there's actually a clinical term for what's happening here. It's called attachment-based parental alienation. And at its heart, it's about one parent's own psychological issues causing severe harm to their child. It actually manipulates the child into cutting off a bond with a parent they once loved. Now, I want to be really clear, this is not some new out there theory. It's built on solid, established psychology. First, you've got attachment theory, which basically says a child is biologically wired to love and be attached to both parents. Then there's family systems theory, which shows how a parent can sort of pull the child into the middle of adult conflicts, using them as a pawn. And finally, you have personality disorder dynamics, which explains this black and white thinking, this splitting, where one parent becomes the saint and the other one becomes the villain. So you might be asking, okay, but how can we know for sure that this is what's happening? Well, that's the good news. Psychologists have pinpointed three key red flags. And when you see all three of these things together, it gives you a really clear and reliable diagnosis. These three indicators give us a perfect framework. And the goal here isn't about picking sides or trying to be a detective. It's just about objectively looking at the child's specific symptoms. So let's break down that first one. First up, the suppression of the attachment system. Think about it. A child's bond with their parent is this incredibly powerful protective instinct. It's baked into our DNA. It doesn't just disappear for no reason. So when a child completely cuts off a normal, loving parent, it goes against nature. It tells you some powerful outside force is at play. Okay, this second indicator is just fascinating. It's like finding a psychological fingerprint. The child starts showing these very specific personality traits, but, and this is key, only toward the rejected parent. They become grandiose, super judgmental. They show this shocking lack of empathy. They act entitled. And this whole cluster of behaviors, it's not actually theirs. It's a mirror image, a direct reflection of the alienating parent's own issues. It's tragic because it starts to corrupt the child's own sense of self. And number three, the child develops a delusional belief. And we're not talking about a simple complaint here. This is a fixed, false belief that the rejected parent is somehow abusive or dangerous or just fundamentally bad. But here's the thing. That delusion didn't start with the child. It's a shared delusion, one that was planted by the other parent to give a reason for this completely unnatural rejection. All right, so with that clinical framework in our back pocket, let's bring this down to earth. Let's talk about the real world. What are the specific signs that friends, family, teachers, coaches, the people in a child's day-to-day life might actually see or hear? These are the echoes of that deep underlying problem. And this is exactly why being aware is so, so important. What are the specific words you might hear? What are the actions you might see that should make you just pause and think, something doesn't feel right here? Knowing these clues can help you realize you might be witnessing something much more serious than just a family disagreement. Let's start with the language. The words a child uses can be incredibly telling. They often start using this very specific, very charged vocabulary that, frankly, just doesn't sound like it's coming from a kid. Listen for the word forced. A kid might say they're being forced to see their parent when they're really just talking about normal court-ordered visitation. They might start calling a parent a liar or fake for just trying to be loving. Simple household rules suddenly become controlling, and minor slip-ups from the past get blown up into neglect. And maybe the most disturbing one, normal discipline, like taking away an iPhone, gets labeled as abuse. So beyond the language, there are also these very specific actions and demands that are huge red flags. These are behaviors that are actively designed to sabotage the child's relationship with the targeted parent. One of the biggest tells is something called the exclusion demand. This is where a child insists the rejected parent cannot come to their soccer game or their school play. I mean, think about it. What healthy child would ever do that? You might also see parental replacement, where a new partner is suddenly being called mom or dad. And watch out for the alienating parent saying things like, well, it's the child's choice, or for that constant intrusive texting that completely undermines the other parent's time with their kid. This brings us to the most critical part of this whole discussion. When you put all of these pieces together, the clinical signs and the real-world behaviors, the conclusion is really inescapable. This is not a custody dispute. This is a child protection issue. Let's be perfectly clear about this. Parenting that intentionally creates this level of psychological damage in a child fits the definition of child abuse. It's an unseen wound, for sure, but it is incredibly destructive. It robs a child of a healthy bond with a parent, and ultimately, it robs them of their own authentic self. And look, this isn't just an opinion. This is a clinical reality. The DSM-5, which is basically the Bible for all mental health professionals, has a specific diagnostic code for this exact situation. It's V99.51, Child Psychological Abuse Confirmed. This just confirms that this is a recognized and diagnosable form of harm. So this all leads us to one final huge question. When you, as a friend, a family member, a teacher, a coach, when you see these patterns, what is our collective responsibility? Understanding these signs is that critical first step. The next is to offer support without taking sides, and to always remember that the child you're seeing is suffering from a very real but unseen wound.